Welcome to Triple T and Me. I am excited that today my special guest is Bryan Falchuk. How are you doing today, Bryan?
I'm good. I'm tired, but I'm good. Making it through. How are you doing, Tyler?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thank you so much. I am so glad that we connected, Bryan. Um, I want to get into that story, and I'm thankful that since we met, we've been able to stay in touch. But do you remember the day we met?
Of course I do. Yeah, man. It was on that course in Chicago. Um, I wrote about it in my book, coming across you and
Yes.
needing it. It was like I needed support. I needed someone to lean on, and I just happened to roll up on this guy who, as we got to talking, it was not a just happened to kind of thing at all. It was, I feel there's a lot of intention behind that. And I'm so thankful that I did happen to come across you. And then we're battling it out in a good way, catching up to each other, supporting each other for miles to come, like a good 10 more miles of that.
Yes. Well, I want you to know that you made my full marathon in Chicago experience worth it because I was very discouraged that I didn't do as well as I wanted to. I knew I didn't train as well as I would have liked, and I made a bonehead decision the night before to try new shoes the
Mm,
first time during this race, and
yep.
I knew that was something you don't want to do, but I thought this was an exception because my running shoes were just worn out.
Yeah, it's
But then
tricky.
yes, and then I paid for it that day, and that was just one problem, but I was just suffering through it. And I remember meeting you and encouraging you. And then when I finished about um, an hour later than I wanted to, and I was really defeated. But
Yeah.
then I got on Facebook the next day, and I had that message from you, just saying, "Hey, I finished because of you," and that
Yeah.
just made the whole experience worth it. So I thank you for that.
Well, I think we finished thanks to each other for sure. And
Absolutely.
I remember searching, I was trying desperately to figure out who you were. And like I knew your first name and that was it. And then I found some photo where we were near each other. So I got your bib number and it wasn't quite Google stalking. It was like Bank of America Chicago Marathon stalking. But I saw your finish line photo where you were barefoot or you had your shoes off, maybe you're in your socks, and you were running for a charity, and it was intertwined. So I just figured, I didn't know that you were struggling too. I just figured, you finished that way on message and in support and kind of, in brotherhood with that charity. I forget what it was now, but it was something about,
It was
helping.
back on my feet.
Yeah, I was like, well, there you go. Like he's sending the message in that finish line photo. Little did I know you were struggling as well.
I
Yeah, that's
love that
cool.
you thought that, and I hope
Yeah,
other people thought that too. And I'll
I'll
just
I'll spread that message. It's fine.
that's great.
Yeah,
And that was your first full marathon, right?
it was. Yeah, and I haven't done another one since for a variety of reasons, but I fully intend to. And the good news is, I was also an hour behind what I was training towards and physically should have been able to do. I ended up getting sick that day. Um, so the good news is I got room for a PR still, and that's
Hey,
okay, right? You got to look
that's
silver linings to it.
yes, I
You've
love
done
it.
a few though, haven't you?
That was just my second one, and I
Okay.
haven't done one since then.
You did
But
like one closer to home, right? Before that?
yes, yes, sir. I did one in our town, Columbus, Indiana. It's always in September,
Nice.
and it was great. It's a great experience. I finished just under 4 hours, so that's why
That's
I was
great.
like, I want
Yeah.
to do this again. But now with having a little one and a little one on the way, finding time to train is just close to impossible.
Yeah. And to say, love you all. I'm going to be gone for the next 4 hours and then useless for another few hours after that doesn't really feel quite right, does it?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So
Yeah.
that's why I've stuck to half marathons. It's more reasonable and doesn't take as much time to train and doesn't take as much uh, energy when it
Hmm.
comes race day to finish. I mean, not don't get me wrong, it's still a challenge, but
It
it's
is. It's a nice
more.
balance, though.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
It's a
So
challenge that doesn't take over your life for 3 to 5 months or 6 months or whatever it is.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, Brian, will you share a little bit of what you do?
Yeah. So I've got kind of two discrete parts of my professional life. And of course, I'm also a husband and father. which is, that's first and foremost for me, which is part of why I'm tired right now. But the professional side of me, on the one side, I've been in the insurance space for a long time, and I left to pursue kind of the other side of my life, which is trying to help motivate people and inspire people. And that's why actually our story from the marathon is a part of my first book, which is a book of my own journey to deal with the things that I faced around anxiety. And I grew up obese because of the anxiety. And that all kind of came to a head in 2011 when it looked like my wife was not going to survive a chronic illness that had taken over her life. And she is still here today. But, I got that call from the doctor that was that. Toughest, absolute toughest thing I've ever faced. It was at a point where, you talk about where you guys are in building your family. We had one, he was two, we were starting to think about number two. And instead of building a life together, we're now facing ending a life together, which is just not what you expect in your early 30s. I was 32 at the time. So that completely reshaped my life. And it forced me, luckily, to face things I was not willing to face before. And through that process, dealing with my anxiety, discovering things about myself, finding the dedication and direction and purpose to do things that I just would never even have considered before. I started to, people came out of the woodwork because they saw what I was doing and they asked for help. And so I started coaching people, and then that turned into the book, my first book, which led to my second book. And that train's long since left the station, and I'm continuing on that path just with the hope of trying to help inspire one person. And honestly, Tyler, it is, it's not just me returning the favor of kind words about the race. Like, you are the reason why I was able to keep going. Right before, meeting up with you, I was at the point where I'm looking at a medical tent and I'm like, I don't know if I'm putting my life at risk right now. Maybe I do need to stop. And I passed that tent, but then I had sort of decided the next one's, that's like, I'm an insurance guy, so I'm risk averse, but I was like, I think the next one's got to be it. And I came upon you, and that conversation, sharing the idea that, like, look, not everyone out here is having a great day. It's beautiful out, it's like perfect conditions. The course was crowded with people cheering you on, and yet I was really struggling. So to find someone who is in a similar boat, and I didn't know about your work on the preaching side, helping people in need, and so it's only fitting that you were so helpful to me. But that is what allowed me to search deeper within and reconnect with what I was trying to achieve, and realize, you've got this. You need to be careful and don't push yourself, but you can do this. I seek to have that same level of impact for others, even if it's just one person. So that's what I do today, as vague and general as that sound. And I do that through coaching and speaking and my writing. That's a really great way to live. I'm lucky to be able to do that.
That's awesome. And I love how you use the challenging time in your life to really learn from that and use that for good. I love that. And I'm really glad how it just all worked out. I got to meet you, and I remember later in the race, like, you were the one that, kept me going. And like you said, like, we helped each other finish. And it seems like it was so much more than just finishing a race, but encouraging one another in our careers, because we both are trying to encourage others. So it's beautiful how that all has worked out. And I'm just honored to be able to chat with you today and encourage people in this interesting season of life that we all find ourselves in.
Very much so. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We probably caught up about 4 times, 5 times, some walking, some slower paced running, but yeah, I mean, there's no question we each supported each other through that. But I'll tell you, if I didn't find you at that moment, I wouldn't have been there for you, because I was done. So yeah, I really am thankful for you. And I remember I was looking back through our messages. I sent you a message from the airport in Atlanta, maybe, I don't know, 6-8 months later, where I could have sworn you were about 50 feet ahead of me. And I felt I was like giddy. And I'm like, jittery, like trying to type out a message to you on my phone to get it to you in time. But A, it wasn't you, and B, it took me so long to tap that out without, Siri corrected me all wrong, that guy was long gone. But I was very excited for a second. I was like, oh my God, I could see him again.
That's cool. I
Yeah.
wish it would have been me. So
Yeah.
we could have caught up in person. Well, I've got the book here and it's awesome.
Hey, thank you.
And I love that because I remember you checked in with me and you're like, you okay if I use your name? And I was like, absolutely. Why not? And so I appreciate you including me. And I'm just thankful for, like I said, like what you're doing with everything, like with the challenging season in your life, with your challenging race, and how you're just using that to motivate and encourage people. So thanks for what you do, Bryan.
Thank you. You're no different and I think a lot of us have gone through something serious, something really challenging, something definitional, and it's a fork in the road. And you see some folks who take one path versus the other. And I think it's important to look at these examples like yourself, like me, like so many out there, where for whatever reason, and hopefully they've come to understand those reasons, they've chosen a path that's empowering and enriching and supportive of others. And even if you took the other path, you can come back and get back on that right path. And that's kind of the intention of my work. Mm-hmm. And I know, having been the recipient of your message as well, I feel like you're on the same wavelength. It's a choice, and that doesn't mean it's easy, but we still can, and it's worth it. Right.
Right. Well, I know you probably don't want to toot your own horn, but I'll give you an opportunity to. This book ended up being a top seller, right?
Yeah. I'm lucky with both of my books. That like, my intention is not selling lots of copies. It's about impacting lots of lives. So the sales is just a proxy for that. So Do a Day in my second book, the 50-75-100 Solution, which is a less catchy title, but it's about building better relationships in our lives. Both of them on their first day hit, number one in their category. They're both hot sellers, made Amazon's like hot new release list. So yeah, I'm really thankful for that. And Do a Day, like I thought that would have come and gone within a few months, but it stayed strong for a couple of years. So there were all these other plans I had that I kept having to push back because Do a Day was still as active as it was, and I was talking about it pretty widely. So it's a good problem to have. But it's pretty awesome to have been able to have that impact. It's weird putting out a book. You kind of temper your expectations. You go through these highs and lows. You're like, I'm going to sell 1 million copies. Only my mom's going to buy it. Like you go in this back and forth. So it really is a blessing to know that it had that staying power and continues to have the impact. And I've got a podcast that's tied to it now for the stories of others. And by the way, you need to come on. We can work that out after this conversation.
Oh, sweet. I love that.
Yeah. Because like I said, everyone's got a different story. My story may not resonate for everyone out there. So I seek to bring the stories of others out in hopes that, someone who's not connecting with my own experience, like maybe this one will. And if that's what brings them out of the place they're in, gets them back, from that path on the left to the one on the right, or however you want to see it, that's worth it. That's worth it.
Yeah, that'd be an honor. So let me know. And you've been pretty successful with your TED Talks as well.
Yeah, I've done a bunch of TEDx talks, and outside of the TEDx space as well. I've gotten to speak at a number of different stages, and I would say, like, when people come up to me crying afterward, I know that might be awkward for some, but that's the most beautiful thing. Is like something resonated so deeply. So I had that the TEDx I did on Do a Day was the first time I talked publicly about the book and the message in it. And there was a line of people weeping to meet me in the break afterward, which that's not what I expected. And that's when it hit me as like, I need to do more with this.
Definitely. So what are some of your goals that you don't mind sharing with us? Not just like with maybe writing some other books, but also with like some personal goals, like you would like to do another full marathon or maybe some halves or so both thing in your career, but also your personal goals?
Yeah. On the career side, I left the insurance world, and I was most recently at an insurance technology company. I left end of last year, and my goal there is to be able to support my family by not having a day job. So I would love to just be able to pursue, this kind of work, and have that be enough. And we'll see. I got all these speaking engagements lined up, which is awesome. And then obviously right now there are no speaking engagements to have lined up. So everything's been canceled. But at least, the interest was there. The momentum was there. Just have to rebuild it. So, that's professionally where I'm trying to head. And then on the personal side, yeah, I think, and you get this, and the marathon doesn't go the way you had thought it would. And it's not just about how you felt that morning or anything. It's, you do put a lot of time into it, and there's a lot of structure behind marathon training. I had a 5-month training plan because I've had a lot of injury, and so I stretched it a lot longer to build properly, and I felt really good about that. And then, like going to take a test and you happen to catch the flu that morning, or you happen to just I had a migraine when I took a graduate school admissions test. It happens. And it's like all that prep, for one fluke can go down the drain. And when you put, especially like we said, the marathon is a lot of investment in that, personally and family wise and financially. Those shoes run out real fast. And you eat voraciously, those long run days, you need calories, and it's expensive. So I did feel quite a bit of loss, and it took me time to process that. I was proud of completing it, but I was also really let down. And it just, you have expectations. And I ran for charity. I ran for St. Jude's, that I love that organization. And I felt like I let them down, even though I didn't. I raised the money, I finished the race, all that, but there was a profound sense of failing myself ultimately. And that took time to process. And I don't feel that way about it today, but I did at the time, and that's okay. Don't invalidate your feelings. But I would like another shot when my life is more conducive to that kind of training. Then I'd like to do that. So that's one, and kind of building off that, getting even more extreme. My real ultimate physical goal is I would like to be an Ironman. So to hear those words as I cross that finish line, that, they say your name, it's like, Bryan Falchuk, you are an Ironman, coming from a place of obesity and physical incapability, to that would be, it's a little bit of proving something to myself, and I'm okay with that. There's just something in that to me that, first of all, I love road cycling and I love running. I don't like swimming. But I can work on that. So I think that'd be incredible for so many things. And I think I would love it as hard as it is. So we'll see. One day that would be my ultimate goal. And that's like a middle-aged and late middle-aged kind of thing a lot of people do. So I've still got time.
Yes.
Marathon is like, I'm past my prime, but Ironman's a little bit different. It's not about, 5-minute miles. And I'm mean on a bike, so I can pick up some time when those wheels are going. Yeah, we'll see. That's me. So professional and personal. And for my family, my wife's illness continues to be front and center for us. It's not taking her life, but it definitely is very definitional for all of our lives. I'm tired because last night was particularly hard for her. In the midst of this pandemic, she is in a very high risk category, and she has a lot of symptoms all the time, and happens to be in a higher period of flaring symptoms. So it's been really rough emotionally and physically. And I was up with her all night, trying to help her through that. So I'm a little bit frazzled. I tend to run very close to the breaking point because of lots of demands on me. So not sleeping is pretty rough. So yeah, I hope that there is a place in our lives where we all get to be free from that. A lot of benefit that's come from it, a lot of better in our lives as a result, but freedom is not something we've been able to have. I would love that for the three of us, and God, she deserves it. She's a lot stronger than she gets to remember at times, and I would love her to be able to feel that. So that's the personal side of it.
I appreciate you sharing that, Bryan.
Thank you.
And how old is your son now?
He is 11. Soon 11 and a half, he'll be reminding me soon of. He's still at that age where you count that. He's an amazing human being. I'm unbelievably proud of who he is.
Awesome. What's your favorite things to do with your son?
Um, I mean, it's kind of a recent thing, but we've just been throwing a baseball around, and
Cool.
he's actually got a really good arm, so that's been great. We're big Ninja Warrior fans. So I love getting to watch him train, and we can't do that right now in the gym, but he's kind of transformed our house into little jumping off and hanging spots here and there. It's just cool watching him really do well there. He's a really sensitive, thoughtful person, and so in elementary school, it's tough to be that way. A lot of kids will pick on you for that. So to see him shine and feel strength, and you can't put him down when he climbs to the top of that wall, that's an incredible feeling as a father. So even though I may not be doing it with him, I did try that at his birthday party we had at his ninja gym, and that's why I'm not running right now. little knee injury from trying to get up that wall. But I can sit on the side and cheer him on and just feel it with him, and that's a really beautiful thing to get to do.
Yeah. So, Bryan, who are some of your heroes?
This is someone I doubt normally would be called a hero, and I'm sure it wouldn't necessarily hit her in the right way, but there's a Buddhist monk named Thubten Chodron. I'm just looking off because her book's in my bookshelf. I owe her wisdom and her writing a great deal of gratitude for some of the more recent reshaping in my life. I've never read anything as beautiful and clear as her book called Open Heart, Clear Mind. It's not about Buddhism as a religion. It's about Buddhism as a philosophy and a way to think about people and challenges and how we relate to each other. And Buddhism's core is to end suffering. That's it. And that's a really beautiful notion. So how can you end suffering for others? There's no, she's not trying to convert you. She's not trying to tell you believe in this or believe in that or whatever. It's just, let's just pause on that thought. That's really hard to argue with. And I think the beauty of that notion, that's something that can really hit your core at the right times when you need it most. And it's like right now, we all need a bit of ending suffering, whether it's full on, dealing with illness or the fear, the unknown, the ambiguity, the anxiety of it. It's all suffering, and we can be there for each other. And this is a point in humanity where we're really going to be tested. And I think thematically as a culture, we've pulled away from that of late, a lot of hatred out there. So this is a chance for us to reset. And I go back to her message because I think it can be one of those guides to resetting. Mm-hmm. So that stands out as a hero for me.
Definitely. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Well, as we close our time together, what do you think is the takeaway for you, like as far as this season goes? Like, what do you think once life goes back to normal, like what do you think the takeaway from this interesting time that's unprecedented will be?
For me, it is about, look, like even the point of this conversation, it's about the human connections. And, the point I was making a moment ago, societally, I think we've been on the wrong path for a while. Politics is about hating the opponent, not about believing in what the person you're following says. Our interactions with people have become very distant and superficial, and a lot of well-intentioned connection through social media is sort of mindless, superficial. And this is forcing us to rethink that, because you don't have a choice. You don't get the physical interactions, so you have to create more meaningful interactions. So for me, it's taking away that is adjusting how we interact with people, how we think about each other, and hopefully finding a bit of just shared understanding and love. Because, blame aside, like we are all in this situation together. It doesn't matter where it started. It doesn't matter who did what when. We're all here. That's all that matters. And we're all going to come out of this together. And some of us won't be here at that point. So how do we honor the loss that we all had to endure? It's not by going back to the way things were. So that's the message for me. And I would be so thankful if leaders globally would espouse that thought more. There's a lot of protection of their reputation in politics and all that sort of thing. And that is the history throughout the world, throughout man's existence, where leaders tend to not just face the truth with honesty because of the potential fallout, and it's never worked out. So I would be really hopeful that we kind of break through that. And I do think we need a reset. Maybe this is that, this is our chance. I'm certainly going to reset for myself.
Me too, for sure. Well, I love that. Well, thanks so much, Bryan. I think it's awesome that, out of those thousands of runners, we were able to meet, and we've been able to stay in contact and do this today. So thanks for taking the time to do this.
Thank you so much, Tyler. Yeah, it's great to reconnect. Yeah, 40,000 from 40,000 came too. What are the odds? But I'm very thankful for it. I'm glad I struggled that day.
Same here.
Yeah.
Same here. I'm glad I decided to wear new shoes.
There you go.
If that's what it took, it was well worth it. Well, in closing, is it okay if I pray with you, man?
Yeah, please.
Lord, I thank you so much for Bryan. I'm thankful that he was a stranger that day in the race, but now he's become a friend. And I'm just thankful for our friendship, even though we haven't been able to spend a lot of time together since we met with the technology. We've still been able to stay in touch. And I'm thankful for today that we could have this video chat and learn a little bit more about each other. And I pray that this would encourage people, Lord. Lord, I pray for Bryan's wife. I pray for her and pray that you would help her to be totally free from what she is struggling with. And I thank you for the loving husband that Bryan is. And I pray for their son in this time. And I just pray that you would bless their family, and that, as he said, this would be a reset for him and for them as a family. Lord, thank you so much for excuse me, all that you do. And Lord, I pray that in our suffering, you would help us to learn what we can from it, and know that it's not a waste. It's not a time that is just hard to be hard, but it's a time that we can learn, and that we can encourage others during it and once we come out. And Lord, we're just thankful for the fact that we're not alone, that we have one another in this life. And just like in the race in Chicago that day, when Bryan and I helped each other finish, in this life, we can help each other finish and keep going in our lives. And Lord, I pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen. Thanks so much, Bryan.
Thank you, Tyler.
You take care.
You too.